The biggest worldwide fitness competition in history. Global regionals with packed arenas and cheering fans. And finally, a grueling week-long test to find the fittest man, woman, and team on Earth. But then, everything changed. Hey folks, I'm David Tao with BarBend.com. Just when the CrossFit Games seemed a tad bit predictable, CrossFit HQ drops the biggest changes fans and athletes have ever seen in the competition. With that massive upheaval in 2019, what does that mean for the Games field this year? And who is well positioned to take the title of fittest man and woman on Earth? We talked to the experts to find out. And quick note, if you want to stay up to date with everything CrossFit Games, make sure to Google BarBend plus CrossFit Games. We've got the latest news from your favorite athletes, the Open, Sanctionals, and more, all throughout the season. Here's how the 2019 CrossFit Games individual fields will be filled. The top 20 individual males and females in the CrossFit Open, the top individual athletes in each country from the Open, the winning female and male athletes from each of the 15 sanctioned events for 2019, and up to 4 individual athletes who will receive at-large bids from CrossFit HQ. With regionals out the window, athletes are faced with a really tough decision in 2019. Do they go hard in the Open and try and qualify for the Games by being in the top 20 worldwide or by being the best in their country? Or do they leave everything on the table at one of the 15 sanctioned competitions, which could derail the rest of their season if they go too hard? To get some more insight into that, we talked to Kari Pierce. Kari is a multi-time CrossFit Games athlete. She's been the fittest American female twice in her career, and she was the 6th fittest woman on Earth in 2018.
The biggest thing this year is me and my coach are just placing so much emphasis on the Open. Before, I would always do an Open workout once. This year, like the first workout, I normally wouldn't have redone because it was brutal, 15 minutes of rowing and wall balls. So this year, we're focusing a lot more on the Open rather than do a bunch of events, just kind of like for fun and for good experience.
All right, so that gives a little bit of clarity on how veterans like Kari are approaching the 2019 Games season. Here's what she had to say on athletes to watch this year.
Tia-Clair Toomey, she's defending champion 2 times, and she's just so strong at everything. It's incredible. Like, she's a phenomenal runner, a phenomenal swimmer. So it's really hard, like, trying to find weakness in her. She's just solid overall. I think Sarah Sigmundsdottir, she has done a couple qualifiers, her sanction events. She's a fierce competitor, so I think she's definitely someone to watch out for because I know she's hungry, especially after what happened last year where she had to pull out of the Games because of the broken rib. There's a girl named Danny Spiegel, and she's done a lot of different qualifiers, and I actually got to see her at Wodapalooza, and she's such a strong person. It seems like she just needs like a little work on her engine, and then she's gonna be right up there. I mean, she's a phenomenal athlete.
All right, so the best part of any expert interview, the podium predictions. Kari gave us her picks for the top 3 at the 2019 CrossFit Games. In first place, she has Tia-Clair Toomey, the 2-time defending champion. Not a huge surprise there. In second place, Kari puts herself, which I think is actually a really strong choice. Kari's someone who's made a lot of progress every year she's competed at the Games. She's a 2-time fittest American female, and she finished 6th place in 2018. That might be a biased choice on her part, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. And in third place, Kari has Sarah Sigmundsdottir, the Icelandic veteran who's been on the scene for quite a while. Now, Sigmundsdottir is someone that I think a lot of folks are watching this year, so remember that name. We'll get back to her a little later on in this episode. All right, but what about on the men's side? And what about qualification for athletes from smaller countries? To get some insight on those questions, we sat down with Frederick Aegidius. He's a Danish athlete who's been to the Games 4 times and has been competing at the sport's highest levels since 2010. That's a lifetime in CrossFit years.
Change is always scary, but I do think that each individual country represented by an affiliate now getting the opportunity to go to the Games is something that's going to drive the sport to a much grander place than what it's been so far. What we saw last year, out of the top 10 is, I don't think it's going to change much. We have a few upcoming athletes in Europe. The way the sport, the programming has changed over the years also caters to a wider spectrum of athletes. You need to be more versatile in order to make it to the top.
All right, Frederick's 2019 men's podium predictions have Mat Fraser at the top. No surprise there. He's the 3-time defending champion and one of the most dominant forces the sport has ever seen. In second place, Frederick has Björgvin Carl Gudmundsson. He's a 5-time CrossFit Games athlete who actually finished on the podium in 2015, so also a veteran. And then in third place, Frederick has Patrick Vellner. Vellner has multiple podium finishes at the Games, and some say he's the only one who's really going to be able to give Fraser a run for his money. All right, so Frederick's predictions on the women's side. In first place, no surprise, 2-time defending champion Tia-Clair Toomey. In second place, Frederick has another 2-time CrossFit Games champion. That's his girlfriend, Annie Thorisdottir. Now, Frederick might be a little biased there, but Annie has incredible longevity in this sport. She's been at the highest levels since 2009. She's a veteran with experience unlike any other. And in third place, Frederick has Sara Sigmundsdottir, a name we're going to hear pop up time and time again over the course of this episode. All right, let's bring it back stateside for another Games Veterans predictions. This time, we sat down with Tim Paulson. Tim's a CrossFit affiliate owner and athlete who's been competing since 2012. He's been to the Games twice, in 2017 and 2018, and both times he had to qualify out of the hyper-competitive East Regional. And as far as veterans to keep an eye on, Tim thinks this year's new qualification structure could bring some familiar names back to the leaderboard.
Sean Sweeney really impressed me at Fittest in Cape Town. I always knew he was a fit dude. I've competed with him. I enjoy him. He's a fun guy. But honestly, he looked great at Fittest in Cape Town. Probably the best I've ever seen him in competition. As far as sanctioned events, I have to give kudos to other gingers. So I think Drew Wayman, I remember watching the Central Regional last year. That was a cool, he did really well on day one and then had a couple setbacks throughout the rest of the weekend. But he's really showed out at a couple sanctioned events so far. So I'll be curious to see how he does throughout the rest of the season and if he can manage to get a qualifying spot. Women's side, so there's actually a girl, Meg Reardon. She has the same coach that I do, and we follow the same program. She was an individual games athlete in 2016, I believe it was, and she barely missed qualifying for the games last year by like a couple points. So she was really close in the East Regional, but she's doing the Mid-Atlantic qualifier right after the Open, and I'm pretty confident she'll do really well there. So I think she could punch her ticket to the games in April.
All right, so Tim's 2019 Games podium predictions on the men's side. In first place, no surprise whatsoever, Mat Fraser. And in second place, also not a surprise, he's got Patrick Vellner right there in the number 2 spot. And in third place, Tim has Jacob Heppner. He's a Games veteran who actually missed out on qualification in 2018. He's known primarily for 2 things. 1, an incredibly strong mental game, and 2, insane training volume that almost no one else can keep up with. All right, so Tim's picks on the women's side. Number 1, Tia-Clair Toomey, no surprise whatsoever. Number 2, Sara Sigmundsdottir, also not super surprising, and a name we're hearing, again, a lot of for this year. But in third place, Tim has a bit of a wild card pick, and that's Dani Spiegel. Spiegel's never qualified for the Games before. She's a bit newer on the scene, but she's been really making a name for herself at sanctional competitions and during the Open. All right, so getting the athlete's perspective is crucial here. We wouldn't have done this video without it. But what about the journalists and pundits who follow CrossFit closer than anyone else? To get that perspective, we caught up with Justin LaFranco, the founder of the Morning Chalk Up, a fantastic resource for all things CrossFit and fitness, by the way, to get his thoughts on Games predictions and also how the new qualification system has impacted the broader community of CrossFit.
Most of the athletes that are coming in and out of the gym every single day, showing up to do fitness, they don't care. They're there for their health. They're there because that's their community and that's their second home. The veterans are continuing to do what the veterans have always done, which is, doesn't matter what you throw at them, they're winning. One athlete that's showing up what I think this year and playing what I would consider to be their best right now is Sara Sigmundsdottir. She is competing so strong and she has a lot of confidence. And I think a confident Sara is a really dangerous Sara. I'm definitely driving the drumbeat a little bit on Dani Spiegel, and I'll tell you what, I first noticed her at the Clearwater Beach Brawl in Florida when she cleaned 260, and now all of a sudden she's everywhere and she's going up against the best athletes at these sanctioned events and she's right on their heels the whole time. There's another athlete that's on the female side that I think is worth noting is Amanda Barnhart. Probably isn't somebody you're gonna pick for a sanctionals winner, and she was never top 20 worldwide. That and Jason Carroll. Jason Carroll was on the demo team last year. And so those are 2 names that I've been paying close attention to over the last week or so because they have a really solid shot if they hold on to some strong performances in the next 2 weeks of qualifying for the Games.
On the men's side, Justin has Mat Fraser in first, Patrick Vellner in second, and Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson in third. And Justin's picks on the women's side also seem familiar. Tia-Clair Toomey in first, Sarah Sigmundsdottir in second, and Annie Thorisdottir in third. Okay, so even though we asked 4 different experts for their independent 2019 Games podium predictions, there was huge overlap. Just 4 names total on the men's side and 5 names total on the women's side. All of our experts had Mat Fraser in first place. Our experts also liked Patrick Vellner, a multi-time podium finisher who some people think may be able to give Fraser a run for his money. Björgvin Karl Gudmundsson was someone who a lot of our experts also talked about. And finally, we had one expert throw Jacob Heppner's name in the mix. On the women's side, the picks, not super varied. All of our experts have Tia-Clair Toomey, the 2-time defending champion, in first place. Sarah Sigmundsdottir and Annie Thorisdottir are both names that came up for a lot of our experts' picks and predictions. Kari Pierce's name also came up. And finally, the only rookie name to come up for any expert prediction list was Danny Spiegel. Can anyone challenge Mat Fraser and Tia-Clair Toomey at the 2019 CrossFit Games? Which names do we leave off our lists? Let us know your thoughts and favorite athletes in the comments below. Want more news from the world of fitness and strength? If you haven't already, subscribe to BarBend's YouTube channel by clicking the link in the description below.